Gentlelady yields. The chair now recognizes the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Guthrie, for 5 minutes for his question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for having this. Sorry, I've been in the Rules Committee over in the Capitol building most of the night, so I missed your testimony, so I apologize. And first, I want to just bring up, I think everybody probably heard that our dear colleague Jerry Connolly passed away, and I mentioned to him in our full committee. He was one of my dear friends here, he and his wife Smitty. And I told a story about where he brought her the wrong Valentine gift last time. This one, he was studying to be a priest. He was in the seminary. It was right before vows, and she had been a nun, his wife. And they met at a nonprofit thing later. She had left anyway, I was we were on a NATO committee, telling a friend of ours in Europe, I said, well, Jerry was about to be a priest, and he married a nun. And he came to me, he goes, you make it sound like I was trolling the convent. You better tell that like it really is. I didn't think about that, the story of it, but anyway. So gosh, what a man, what a wonderful person. So I'm sorry, we're gonna all we've lost him. Getting back to the thing, and thank Mr. Chairman for doing this. Critical minerals, as we know, we saw during the tariff issues when China was going to start restricting that and the leverage they had. And so, Ms. Hunter, how are critical minerals, and particularly rare earth elements, for the reliability for energy and also to being competitive with China for AI, which is part energy as well? You want to talk about that?
Thank you for the question, Chairman. Rare earths are a really good example here of the importance across energy infrastructure, ensuring American energy dominance, and then also supporting new growing technologies like the AI revolution. They get a lot of attention, rare earth elements, for their application in permanent magnets, specifically used to propel wind turbines, also to use in electric motors for EVs, but their utilization across society is really outsized. When we're putting in place these new AI data centers, they have to remain cool. It is the rare earth magnets that actually keep the fans going in these data centers, so critically important there as well. Another good example, besides rare earths, is copper and aluminum. For their conductivity, they're used not only in transmission infrastructure, but also in these data centers to make sure they can have that high level of computation.
Okay, thanks. And so Ms. Sweeney or Ms. Hunter, and also Ms. Sweeney, the issue right now is China. Well, we need them anyway, but the issue right now is China. And so could you talk about, I'll start with Ms. Sweeney and Ms. Hunter could talk about it too. I think my question for you, what are the economic implications of not having our own supply, Ms. Hunter? And then Ms. Sweeney, if you'll talk first, and talk both of it, is my understanding is that China has tried to kind of drum up opposition in the United States for us to develop our own critical minerals and rare earth elements, not only mining, but processing as well. I mean, how does China try to use market manipulation, any type of thing to prevent us or discourage us from developing this industry, which makes us more dependent on them? Can you give us some examples of that?
Yes. A great example, I think, is the Jervois cobalt mine in Idaho. They were just about to open. They were fully permitted, and China dropped the price of cobalt, manipulated the market, dumped excess cobalt onto the market, and Jervois had to choose between operating a loss or closing, and they closed that facility.
But that's a prime target for trade action, is it? Should be. So, Ms. Hunter, what are the national security implications if China keeps doing this and we don't have our own supply?
There are very clear national and economic security implications if we don't find alternative supplies to China. Again, rare earths is a great example. With the most recent export controls that we've seen, that have been somewhat de-escalated. We heard, it covered all over the news about how manufacturers who keep, around 45 to 60 days of inventories are lacking alternative sources of supply, particularly for heavy rare earths that we have to get processing online for. Last year, the USGS documented a loss.
Thanks, I'm just about out of time, but we have the biggest proponent of rare earth minerals chair in this committee right now in critical minerals, Mr. Palmer, and we're gonna all turn him loose and ourselves loose. Turning ourselves loose and having a game plan, two different things. I know he has a game plan. I'm trying to learn from him. So what do you, anybody, I'll just start with you guys, suggest, what does Congress need to be doing What's the biggest impediment that Congress can help you solve to get rare earth and critical mineral and processing in our nation? Stateside, start with Ms. Hunter and go down.
Permitting reform and helping with the cost disadvantages for U.S. processors.
Ms. Hunter, Ms. Sweeney, I'm sorry.
Ditto.
Mr. Herg, you want to?
Capital being put at risk. There's a 30% premium in the United States spent on unnecessary permitting costs. The IRA, all it did was offset half of that. So if we sped up mining projects, we would see close to $1 trillion of foreign direct investment pour into the United States, and you wouldn't need Keynesian-style federal money. Now, I'm not going to tell my members that are going to slap me that they don't like the free money, but at the end of the day, we need to change the way we think about it.
That's what Mr. Palmer says, $1 trillion. So you're saying he's right.
We have a narrow window where China is at the end of its useful life on what it built 20 years ago. It can no longer meet the purity standards that are required for AI, semiconductors, cathodes, and the rest. So we have about a 2-3 year window where we need to get out of our own way, and we might be able to catch up a little bit to China.
I'm not going to get to the other two of you, but I will say that the time to act is now, and so it's time for us to, we're going to put some action into this. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank the gentleman. The chair now recognizes